Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for the Deltascape version 1.0 Savage. This is the first Savage encounter made available in Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood, and it will blow you away by its simplicity. This guide assumes you have a basic understanding of the encounter and its mechanics on normal mode, and will instead focus on the differences between the two. My name is Ms. Tech, and I'll be your raid guide. The main and most obvious change is the lack of barriers around the outer edge of the platform. Players will need to be very mindful of their positioning during each mechanic, or they will fall off and die. Wyrmtail will target the main tank throughout the encounter, and does a fair bit more damage than normal mode. Heal through this as necessary. Twin Bolt is essentially the same, but again will deal a higher amount of damage and happen more frequently throughout the encounter. Both tanks will need to share this damage by standing near each other. Cooldown and heal through this as necessary. The boss will move to the center and cast the classical elements. In this first combo of mechanics, flame orbs will spawn in the very center of the room, and ice will form over the platform. Players will need to stand near the center in preparation for downburst. Positioning can take a little to get used to here, as you want to be close enough to not get knocked off the platform after downburst, but not too close that you're standing in the actual downburst twister and getting one shot. I would recommend using these lines on the platform as a guide. As long as you're within this line, you're far enough away from the edge to survive the knockback without falling. Once downburst goes off, all players and orbs will be pushed to the outer edge. The ice has also completely formed at this point, and any movement will cause you to slide in that direction a set distance. Movement here is very key. All players will need to immediately slide into the center to avoid the flame orbs exploding on the outer edge. As they do this, they will be targeted by Levin Bolt AoE markers. To avoid overlap, players will immediately need to slide back out to the outer edge. The easiest way to do this is to assign locations for each player to spread their Levin markers throughout the encounter. This way, every player will know exactly where to go during each combo to avoid excess damage. You'll have a few seconds once the ice dissipates for some minor adjustment, but this won't be necessary if your movement is on point. Next up, Roar will do a considerable amount more damage to the raid. Shield and heal through this as necessary. A few more Wyrmtails and another Twin Bolt leads us into the first clamp cast. On Savage difficulty, this attack has no telegraph, and all players will need to watch for his cast bar and move away from the boss's front to avoid death. The next flame pattern has orbs spawning on the outer edge first, and then in the middle. Players will again stand in the center to avoid the outer explosions, and then immediately move to their assigned spots on the edge to spread their Levin Bolt markers and avoid the center explosions. Immediately after, Blaze will target a healer. Everyone will need to stack in to share this damage. Shield and heal through this as necessary. A few more Wyrmtails and another Twin Bolt leads us into a double Roar cast. Healers be ready to heal. Next up is the first Charybdis and Roar combo. Charybdis will of course bring all player health pools down to single digits, and healers will need to heal everyone up before the next Roar cast. Use cooldowns as necessary. The next classical elements combo will spawn a new pattern of orbs of flames in a T orientation. Downburst, thin ice, and Levin orbs will occur during this combo as well, so players need to be pre-positioned at the top of the T, in between the two center orbs. After downburst, the orbs will be on the outer edge with only one safe spot, and this pre-positioning will ensure no players are hit by the flame orb explosions. To handle Levin Bolt next, players can slide back into the center and then slide to their assigned spots to spread their Levin Bolt markers appropriately. The next pattern of orbs is also new. The boss will fly to an edge and cast Breathwing while also forming ice. Players will need to position themselves in front of the boss to avoid the flame explosions during the knockback. Be careful not to be too close to the edge, as you can get knocked off. The boss will immediately cast Clamp on his primary target, and all players are going to need to slide out of his way. Make sure you don't slide off the platform. Next up is another Blaze stack up marker. Stack in to share that damage and heal up before the next Roar. Heal through that Roar damage, another two Wyrmtails, and then prepare for the next Charybdis. A Twin Bolt occurs immediately after Charybdis here, and healers and tanks will need to use cooldowns and heal as necessary. The next flame orbs will spawn first in the center of the room, and then around the outer edge. Players will hang around the outer edge in their assigned spots while they wait for the center to explode and Levin Bolts to go off. Immediately after, they'll move into the center to avoid the outer explosions. A clamp cast will also go off here, and players will need to make sure they move out from the front of the boss to avoid this. Be sure not to move too far though, as you don't want to be clipped by any of the outer explosions. Two Roar casts will be next, and healers will need to heal through this as necessary. The next classical elements combo will spawn orbs on the outer edge first and then in the center. Players will need to stand in the center to avoid the outer explosions, but also be positioned in between two center orbs, so that when they're knocked back by downburst, they are in the safe zones already formed between the explosions exploding orbs. After the knockback, players will need to return to the center in preparation to share blaze damage. Another roar, 2 more Wyrmtails, and 1 more twin bolt. Shield, heal, and cooldown through all of these as necessary. Avoid clamp, and the next orb pattern will spawn first on the outer edge and then in the center. Players will also have Levin bolts and blaze to deal with after each flame orb explosion. This is the same pattern as earlier on in the fight and is handled in the same way. You'll notice that at this point the patterns of each combo will repeat, and it's a matter of handling each in turn while you destroy the boss. The boss will enrage at around 13.5 minutes by covering the platform in unavoidable flame orbs and killing everyone. However, with average raid DPS and minimal deaths, you should be able to kill him before this time. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Up next, we'll look at the Deltascape version 2.0 Savage. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time!